Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I'm going to be providing some commentary over some of my Final Fantasy XVI gameplay and also going over something interesting that I discovered while playing the Final Fantasy XVI demo's combat challenge known as the Iconic Challenge. Now, I'm back from LA. I actually got to live attend the Los Angeles launch event. I got to stream from it as well and play this from there and get to see all sorts of people. It was a ton of fun, but now that I'm back, I am going to be pushing pedal to the metal now that the demo is out and the game is so close. So part of that has been practicing all the different combos, trying to see which skills I like more of the icons that we can actually play with, what sword skills I want to increase, how do I want to incorporate magic, what button layout do I want to use, all of that fun stuff. So in the process, I've played the Iconic Challenge, which you unlock after finishing the prologue many times. And along the way, I said, you know what, I might as well just do a run where I don't take any damage from the final boss of this section. And I actually discovered something quite interesting. So I'm going to provide some commentary on the boss, what I was trying to do, the build that I was using for it, as well as go over what that bonus reward is and where it will fit into the game and the replayability of the game, whether you be a hardcore person or just a completionist, because there was something specifically for what seems like doing a no damage run of that boss, which gives some more replayability to the mission rematches that you can do later in the game. All right, so here's the run. This one was off stream just as I was practicing and trying to get some footage for a video. And the build is fairly simple. I was largely focusing on practicing counterattack. So I have 2 extra points in Heat Wave. I have a point in Titan's Raging Fist. I believe I have a point in Down Thrust as well, and maybe a point somewhere else. But I take no damage on this run. We dash through that, make sure to dodge, and we quickly grab the Heat Wave and counter here to try and get her to the 50% stagger, grab her with the Deadly Embrace, and then a 1 extra point in Gouge I definitely had as well, while also telling Torgal to sick constantly to try to deal that extra will damage. So with this first phase on Benedikta, the whole point is to try and just instantly eliminate her on the first attack. It's not very difficult, honestly. This attack alone, which, you know, Titan just doing absolutely massive damage as he does, is more than enough. Now, while the cutscene is playing, I actually want to say that I made quite a few errors in this run. That first part went pretty much according to plan, but for the second part, I just didn't play as well as I did in other runs. One big thing that you can do actually, there's quite a few things you can do in the demo to make this fight go a little faster, go a little easier. For example, Clive actually has equipment that's better than the base equipment that you have, like a sword, armor, and a wristband that with more attack and defense. On top of that, you can pick up some accessories. I actually skipped past them because I largely wasn't using the skills other than Scarlet Cyclone, so that could have sped things up as well. And on top of that, I completely forgot to use I believe I forgot to use a strength potion until way too late, so a lot of my combos are not at their maximum capacity. Not to mention, I outright botch one combo, which prevents me from finishing the fight even earlier. So this no damage just ended up coming down to good practice on the counterattacks, which is really all I wanted, because honestly, it is my favorite thing in the game so far. Every icon, as we can see from the various gameplay teasers, on top of now playing this and what I played back at the media event in London, they all have some form of counterattack built in, and they all have different flavors and different effects, so mastering them seems to come with a lot of versatility, not to mention that if you successfully pull off a counter, as you'll see here, the cooldown actually greatly decreases. So that's Titan's Raging Fist. I just have to make sure that I block an attack as he's stepping forward, and then I'm at an angle that I can actually hit her with when I come out of it. I have missed that before. Quickly get her down with the Scarlet Cyclone, grab her, and now this, I decided not to push this too far. She pretty much always gets away here and does this little fly around, which gives you a bit of a break. And this, I think, is actually crucial towards making the second phase go as quick as it is, because after using a bunch of cooldowns to make sure that I could push her stagger gauge down as much as I could, I then am able to let all my cooldowns come back here while she's flying around, largely non-threatening. And then I can actually do another counterattack, which extends the duration of this stagger. So you're going to see me go for another Raging Fist here. And you can see, even though she's already staggered, I at least get a bunch of this extra damage in before that, which if I do that correctly, I can actually skip a phase outright. Go for the Limit Break just for the damage amp. I want to make sure that I actually get most things. Go for the Down Thrust there. The Gouge, we have to make sure that this last hit, this wind up, actually hits while I'm mostly inside Limit Break. I probably could have timed that a little bit better and gotten to it faster. But I've done way more than that 14,000. That's actually kind of on the low side. I don't remember if I had properly equipped the sword, the new one here, if I'm using the original, but either way, you can easily get that over 20,000, even getting upwards towards the upper 20,000s if you have the right skill points and things. Points in windup go a long way in the demo, just because it is such a boss-killing ability. In fact, Titan as a whole is very, very good at dishing out huge damage under staggers here. So as long as you're comfortable bringing his skills and even just using them occasionally just to push the stagger gauge, they go a long way. I believe this is the one that I botch, where I go to pop the Lionheart tonic, which you do have in your inventory. You can equip it and it will actually generate your limit gauge much faster. You can see my limit gauge just kind of skyrocketing up. That's because I used that Lionheart tonic. But unfortunately, I screw this up and I go for a Raging Fist here. I didn't mean to do that. That was actually a misclick. I meant to try to end it with that. And then on top of that, I get the short punch on that. So still, I mean, the damage is fine. But 6,000 to 7,000, I could have done another 12,000 to 14,000 there. And you looking at her health bar, I mean, she would basically lose as soon as this little cinematic is over, because I'm going to get a whole nother attack window on her. Looks like I did remember my strength potion as well, but yeah, missing a ton of damage here. So it just comes down to pretty much never allowing her to do more than 1 or 2 attacks per phase. And once that's done, you know, it's just about punishing the stagger, using Deadly Embrace to pull her down. And Gouge is just such a great tool at both building your damage during your limit, or during the stagger itself, of course, with the limit break also active, but also at ripping apart the second half of the will bar once you pull them down with Deadly Embrace. It's such a wide use skill. It's kind of tough to decide to use it on that second half or to try to save it just to push up that stagger damage to the 1.5 max before using limit break and wind up in order to finish it. Here, you know, I just have to kind of go for something a little vanilla, just kind of going through my different icon skills, thankfully for the cutscene. Here, I have to make sure that going to use the limit break in order to do an animation cancel. And I was so nervous about missing that this time that I actually even did it a little early. And even with that, 14,344, still on the lower side in, you know, my experience, but worked out perfectly fine. Here, just making sure to avoid all the tornadoes. And then finally, having to actually dodge these. Now, I usually can just skip this phase outright. In fact, this is one of the few times I've seen this phase. But it gave me the opportunity to do this. Bam! Go for the Titan block into the punches, which I could then follow up with. Go for a Deadly Embrace. I think I actually use Heat Wave here, yeah. I do a dodge into a Heat Wave, which allows me to intercept, which then pushes her stagger gauge way down. It's already down to 1/4 before I even get the Deadly Embrace. Now the gouge play is easy, and I can keep gouging afterwards, but I decide to stop and just finish the fight, and bam! There you go, that last little stagger. But no damage on Benedikta actually yields an interesting result, something I wasn't expecting because it didn't happen when I did no damage in the prologue demo, and that a decoration, a Medal of Valor, popped up on the screen. I went to go hover over it to see what it was, but unfortunately it disappeared, and you can see my cursor in the middle, very sadly. Now, we know that the hideaway, which is where, you know, Clive is going to be hanging out, it's basically kind of like a hub world if you haven't been keeping up with the game too much, is going to have places that you can essentially, well, decorate. It's going to have Clive's room in it. And so these medals will very likely be something that you can collect to fill out Clive's actual room in the hideaway, or even just in the, I think they actually showed the room and like where you can go to change the decorations and stuff like that. But that was from doing no damage. Now, like I said, I didn't get those from the prologue, and I think the reason I didn't get them from the prologue bosses, even though I got no damage on them as well, is because they're before the hideaway is unlocked, and this event would certainly be after the hideaway is unlocked. So I do need to test it on the first boss in the Iconic Challenge. I'm actually going to go do that right after I'm done recording this, but I wanted to share that because it's a fun little show off of the counterattacks. I'm sure if you were watching the combat display with the combat director, Ryota Suzuki, he goes over a lot of very tactical combat counters, and, you know, they're strong. They're really, really strong. They're really, really rewarding. And I think a lot of people are going to lean towards that gameplay style about as much as you expect people to do a lot more dodgy style stuff, especially some of the other counters, which are more dodgy. Shiva's dodge, as we've seen from the trailers with the freeze, is going to be super high value. Garuda's is also insanely good, but it's more like a traditional dodge, like the R1 dodge, just with a really, really strong follow-up, especially if you level it up. So I'm really curious to see how people are going to use this stuff, but that was my no damage Benedikta. Again, low on the damage front, but at least I didn't get hit. So with that, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think about this medal system, where if you get no damage on the boss, you seem to get some sort of collectible. Curious to see how desirable those things will be, what they'll actually look like. But either way, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned. I'm going to be releasing a ton of Final Fantasy 16 content on this demo and anything else that happens before launch. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.